Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes society whispers, or rather shouts, that a woman must have someone beside her to feel complete. But let me begin with a reminder. Being single is not a weakness. It is one of the greatest opportunities for self-growth. A woman without a boyfriend is not alone. She is available. Available to discover herself, to build her dreams, and to embrace inner strength that relationships sometimes distract from. Being single is often misunderstood as a state of lack. But in reality, it is one of the most profound periods of self-growth a woman can experience. When a woman is without a boyfriend, she enters a phase where her attention naturally shifts from external expectations to internal evolution. This shift is powerful because it allows her to see herself without the noise of opinions, comparisons, or emotional dependencies. In this space, she learns to recognize her own strengths, weaknesses, dreams, and desires with remarkable clarity. She slows down enough to understand what truly matters to her, what she is willing to accept, and what she should never settle for. Such self-awareness becomes the foundation of emotional maturity and personal empowerment. In a world that constantly reinforces the idea that relationships define value, a woman who stands confidently on her own challenges that narrative. She proves that fulfillment is not something to be borrowed from another person, but something one builds within. Without the distractions that often come with romantic involvement, she gains the freedom to invest her energy in her ambitions. This could mean advancing her career, developing a new skill, focusing on her education, improving her health, or even exploring new passions she never had time for before. Every effort she puts into herself becomes a brick in the structure of a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of herself. She starts realizing that personal progress is not just an option. It is a responsibility she holds toward her future. This phase also teaches her emotional independence, which is one of the most valuable forms of strength. Emotional independence is not about rejecting people. It is about never losing oneself while being connected to others. A woman who learns to stand emotionally strong on her own becomes more resilient. She does not fear loneliness because she has learned to create comfort within herself. She does not depend on validation because she understands her own worth deeply. She does not chase temporary attention because she values meaningful connection. This inner security becomes her shield against manipulation, unhealthy relationships, and emotional instability. When she eventually chooses to love, she does so from a place of confidence, not desperation. Being without a boyfriend also gives her the opportunity to reset her standards. Instead of rushing into relationships out of pressure or fear, she becomes more intentional. She understands what qualities she values in a partner, what red flags she should not ignore, and what kind of relationship she deserves. She learns that true companionship is not about simply having someone. It's about having someone who aligns with her vision, respects her boundaries, and supports her growth. With this clarity, she no longer entertains situations that drain her. Instead, she preserves her energy for what genuinely nourishes her. Most importantly, this period cultivates a deeper relationship with herself. She begins to enjoy her own company, celebrate her achievements, reflect on her journey, and heal from past experiences. She learns to forgive herself, acknowledge her progress, and set new goals with self-respect. This connection with herself becomes her internal compass, guiding her decisions with maturity and wisdom. A woman who knows herself is not easily shaken by external noise because her confidence is rooted within. In the end, being a woman without a boyfriend is not a pause in her life story. It is preparation. Preparation for a stronger mindset, a clearer purpose, and a richer understanding of who she is becoming. It is the phase where she transforms from simply existing to intentionally evolving. It is not emptiness, it is empowerment. It is not waiting, it is growing. A woman who grows in her singlehood becomes someone who will one day choose love, not because she needs it, but because she is ready for it. A woman's worth has never been defined by her relationship status, yet society has repeatedly encouraged the belief that being loved by another person is the highest form of validation. The truth is much deeper. A woman's value is rooted in her character, her integrity, her vision, and the impact she chooses to create in the world. When she understands this, she frees herself from the pressure of trying to fit into timelines or expectations designed by others. Instead, she steps into a more refined sense of identity, one shaped by her own principles rather than someone else's approval. This kind of internal strength cannot be gifted by a boyfriend or taken away by the lack of one. It is earned through self-awareness and lived experience. A woman who recognizes her inherent worth begins to see her life through a new lens. She no longer views partnership as a certificate of validation, but as a meaningful choice, one that should enrich her already fulfilling life. Her confidence becomes rooted not in compliments or external attention, but in the actions she takes, the values she upholds, and the goals she sets for herself. Such a woman understands that her ambition, intelligence, compassion, and resilience are the real markers of her identity. She becomes selective about where she invests her time, energy, and emotions because she knows her value is precious. This mindset helps her build a version of herself that stands strong regardless of who walks into or out of her life. Without the pressure of meeting someone else's expectations, she gains the freedom to express her true personality. She stops shrinking to make others comfortable and instead allows her authenticity to shine. Whether she is introverted or outgoing, soft-spoken or assertive, logical or creative, she learns that her individuality is an asset, not something to be edited to attract or keep a partner. When she embraces this, her confidence radiates naturally. That glow does not come from trying to be perfect. It comes from being real. This authenticity becomes a powerful magnet, drawing the right opportunities and the right people into her life, not because she is trying to impress anyone, but because she is living as her true self. Understanding her worth also helps her establish healthier boundaries. She realizes that not every relationship is worth her emotional investment, and that not everyone who shows interest deserves access to her life. Instead of settling for attention, she looks for respect. Instead of craving companionship, she seeks alignment. Instead of accepting half-hearted efforts, she expects effort that matches her own. These boundaries do not make her difficult. They make her wise. They protect her peace, her self-respect, and her long-term well-being. A woman who knows her value refuses to be treated as an option because she recognizes that her time, emotions, and dreams deserve commitment and sincerity. As she continues to understand herself, she also stops comparing her journey to others. She realizes that everyone has a different timeline, a different purpose, and a different story. Just because someone else is in a relationship does not mean she is behind. Just because someone got married early does not mean she needs to do the same. She learns to trust the timing of her life and invests her energy into becoming the best version of herself. This self-trust becomes the foundation of emotional stability and long-term happiness. In this state of clarity, she becomes more intentional about her future. She thinks about the kind of environment she wants to build, the kind of partner she would need to complement her values, and the kind of life she wants to create with or without someone by her side. Her dreams no longer revolve around finding someone to complete her, they revolve around fulfilling her own potential. When she eventually chooses a partner, it will not be because she needs someone to validate her. It will be because she has found someone who respects her, supports her, and aligns with the life she is already building. A woman's worth, therefore, is never measured by her relationship status, but by the depth of her character. When she understands this truth, she moves from seeking validation to offering value, from craving attention to cultivating purpose, and from hoping for acceptance to confidently living her truth. This understanding transforms her into a woman who is not defined by love, but elevated by self-respect. Solitude is often misunderstood as isolation, but for a woman on her journey of growth, it becomes one of the most transformative forms of strength she can possess. When a woman learns to enjoy her own company, she taps into a kind of inner stability that is not easily shaken by circumstances or people. This stability does not arise overnight. It develops through introspection, emotional maturity, and the willingness to sit with her own thoughts, ambitions, and vulnerabilities. In this space of quiet, she finds clarity about what she truly wants, what she must let go of, and who she is becoming. Solitude then becomes a teacher. It teaches her resilience, patience, and self-reliance in ways that constant companionship never could. A woman who becomes comfortable with solitude gains a powerful advantage. She is no longer afraid of being alone. Reaching this level of independence means she is no longer driven by the fear of loneliness or societal pressure. She does not enter relationships to fill voids. She enters them with a sense of fullness. This emotional security becomes a grounding force, allowing her to navigate life with confidence and calmness. She makes decisions based on her values, not out of desperation or the desire to please others. The world might tell her she needs someone to feel complete, but her own experience teaches her that completeness begins within. And once she experiences this internal strength, she refuses to let anyone or anything diminish it. Solitude also gives her control over her emotional landscape. Without being influenced by another person's expectations, moods, or opinions, she learns how to manage her own emotions more effectively. She becomes aware of her triggers, her patterns, and her responses. Over time, she develops the emotional intelligence to understand what she feels and why she feels it. This self-awareness becomes a shield against chaos. She becomes less reactive and more thoughtful. She stops seeking external approval and begins trusting her own instincts. She no longer requires constant validation from others because she has learned to validate herself. That level of emotional independence protects her from toxic relationships, unhealthy attachments, and rushed decisions. Another powerful outcome of solitude is the freedom it offers. A freedom that allows her to explore, create, and find joy in her individuality. She can pursue hobbies, invest in personal growth, read, travel, or simply rest without depending on anyone else's schedule or preferences. This freedom expands her worldview and builds her identity. It helps her discover passions she might have ignored, talents she never explored, and dreams she had forgotten. The more she grows in her independence, the more she realizes that she is capable of building a fulfilling life on her own terms. This realization does not make her dismiss companionship. Rather, it enhances her ability to choose relationships consciously and wisely. Solitude also strengthens her ability to set boundaries. Because she is comfortable with her own company, she no longer tolerates situations that disturb her peace. She learns what drains her, what energizes her, and what aligns with her values. This helps her create boundaries that protect her emotional well-being. She no longer fears losing people when she speaks up for herself, because she understands that her self-respect matters more than temporary acceptance. When she prioritizes her peace, she naturally attracts people who respect her space and intentions. Solitude teaches her that silence is not empty. It is full of lessons, truths, and strength. Over time, solitude transforms into a sanctuary she returns to for grounding. She understands that being alone is not a burden. It is a privilege that many overlook. It is in these quiet moments that she finds energy, direction, and a deeper connection with her own soul. She becomes a woman who does not cling, who does not chase, who does not crumble when someone leaves. Instead, she stands firm, knowing she has built a stable foundation within herself. A woman who has mastered solitude becomes someone who chooses relationships out of love, not lack, out of intention, not insecurity. This ability to be whole by herself becomes her greatest strength. Love, at its best, is not meant to complete a person, but to complement the life they have already built. When a woman understands this, she approaches relationships with maturity, clarity, and balance rather than dependency or fear. She recognizes that genuine love is not a replacement for personal growth, self-respect, or emotional stability. Instead, it is an addition, an enrichment that enhances her life without overshadowing her individuality. A fulfilled woman knows that her identity, confidence, and purpose cannot be handed to her by someone else. These qualities are cultivated through effort, reflection, and resilience. When she values herself enough to build a strong inner world first, she becomes capable of inviting meaningful love rather than settling for convenience or temporary affection. This understanding shifts the way she views relationships. Instead of searching for someone to make her feel whole, she seeks someone who aligns with her already evolving journey. She is no longer attracted to superficial qualities or fleeting attention. She is drawn to depth, consistency, and authenticity. Her conversations change, her expectations evolve, and her standards rise. She looks for a partner who supports her goals instead of limiting them, who respects her boundaries instead of challenging them, and who values her dreams rather than competing with them. With this mindset, relationships become partnerships rather than emotional crutches. Such a woman understands that love should lift her, not weigh her down. It should bring peace, not confusion. It should inspire growth, not insecurity. When a woman invests in her personal development, she becomes more emotionally aware and spiritually grounded. She identifies the values that shape her decisions and the vision she holds for her future. This self-awareness helps her distinguish between love and attachment, between genuine connection and temporary desire. She becomes conscious of what she can offer and what she expects in return. This clarity prevents her from staying in relationships that drain her or settling for partners who do not appreciate her worth. Instead, she chooses relationships that match her commitment, effort, and emotional depth. She learns that healthy love is reciprocal, intentional, and respectful. The more fulfilled she becomes on her own, the more she understands the importance of compatibility over chemistry. Chemistry can create excitement, but compatibility creates stability. She seeks someone whose values complement hers, whose mindset aligns with hers, and whose goals move in a similar direction. A relationship built on compatibility has the power to thrive through challenges because it is rooted in understanding and shared vision. Such relationships encourage both partners to grow individually and collectively, forming a bond based on mutual respect rather than emotional dependence. When a woman realizes that love is meant to add to her life, she also becomes more selective about the energy she allows into her space. She becomes mindful of habits, attitudes, and behaviors that either uplift or diminish her. Because she understands her own emotional needs, she chooses partners who communicate openly, handle conflict maturely, and appreciate her individuality. She no longer tolerates inconsistent love or half-hearted effort. Her fulfillment becomes her filter, guiding her toward relationships that align with her highest potential. This perspective also helps her nurture healthier dynamics when she does enter a relationship. She knows how to maintain her independence while nurturing connection. She understands the balance between giving and receiving, between supporting and being supported. She does not lose herself in love, nor does she expect someone else to lose themselves for her. Instead, she contributes to a partnership where both individuals thrive, not just one. Her confidence stems from knowing that she is with someone by choice, not by necessity. Ultimately, a fulfilled woman approaches love with grace and wisdom. She understands that relationships should not fix her, but enhance the person she already is. She knows that the right partner will not complete her identity, but will stand beside her as she continues to evolve. And with that understanding, she invites a love that is steady, respectful, and genuinely transformative. Pressure from society has always been a persistent force, shaping the expectations placed on women, how they should behave, when they should marry, what timelines they should follow, and how their lives should look. But a woman who chooses to rise above these pressures begins to reclaim her freedom. She learns that her life is not a race against anyone else's accomplishments, and certainly not a performance put on for public approval. Instead, it is a deeply personal journey that unfolds at its own pace. When she stops letting society dictate her timeline, she starts stepping into her own power, power that is rooted in self-awareness, inner calm, and the courage to live authentically. For many women, societal expectations can feel suffocating. The questions, the judgments, the comparisons, all of these create unnecessary stress. But when a woman decides that her worth is not based on meeting those expectations, she becomes more focused on what genuinely aligns with her values. She recognizes that giving in to pressure may lead to decisions that do not serve her happiness or long-term growth, rather than following rigid traditions or rushing into commitments because others believe it is time. She chooses to honor her own readiness. This shift in mindset frees her from the endless cycle of meeting external standards and allows her to focus on her own fulfillment. A woman who resists societal pressure also gains emotional clarity. She starts distinguishing between what she wants and what others want for her. She begins asking herself meaningful questions. What kind of life do I envision for myself? What goals genuinely inspire me? What type of partnership do I want if I choose one at all? These questions help her build a life that reflects her true desires, instead of living out a script handed down to her. And as she continues to search within, she becomes more aligned with her personal truth. Her decisions evolve from being reactions to expectations to being intentional steps toward a life she finds meaningful. This clarity also strengthens her confidence. Once she realizes that societal pressure cannot dictate her destiny, she becomes less affected by criticism and judgment. She learns to handle opinions with grace without letting them influence her sense of self-worth. Confidence does not come from doing what society approves of. It comes from doing what feels right for her. This inner confidence helps her stand firm. Even when she is questioned or misunderstood, she no longer feels the need to justify her pace, her choices, or her priorities. Instead, she simply continues walking her path with quiet strength and determination. Choosing her own timeline also helps her build healthier relationships. When she is not rushed into commitments or pressured into settling, she becomes more intentional about the people she allows into her life. She chooses partners, friends, and mentors who support her individuality rather than force her into conformity. She gravitates toward people who respect her choices and encourage her growth. By resisting societal pressure, she naturally creates a healthier emotional environment around herself, one where authenticity is valued and individuality is celebrated. Her refusal to be controlled by external expectations also sets a powerful example for others. Whether consciously or not, she inspires other women to examine their own lives and question the pressures they have silently accepted. She becomes a reminder that life does not have to follow a universal timeline, that it is perfectly acceptable to take longer, to move differently, to choose paths that others may not understand. Her courage in making independent decisions encourages others to reclaim their autonomy too. Above all, a woman who chooses her own journey becomes deeply connected to her purpose. Without the noise of societal pressure, she can hear her own voice more clearly. She pursues passions that excite her, builds skills that empower her, and makes choices that reflect her true identity. She no longer measures her progress by societal milestones, but by her own growth, peace, and fulfillment. And with every independent step she takes, she strengthens her belief that her life is her own creation, not a reflection of society's expectations. Choosing yourself is one of the most powerful decisions a woman can make, because it signals a shift from living for others to living with purpose, clarity, and self-respect. When a woman decides to invest in her own growth, her own peace, and her own dreams, she begins to evolve in ways that transform every part of her life. This choice is not selfish, it is self-preserving. It comes from the understanding that she cannot pour into others if she is empty, nor can she build a meaningful future if she neglects her own needs. Investing in herself becomes an act of empowerment, one that strengthens her identity and deepens her resilience. As she starts prioritizing her own journey, she becomes more intentional about the way she spends her time and energy. She begins to evaluate the habits that shape her life, the goals that inspire her, and the environments that influence her mindset. Whether she chooses to learn something new, focus on her health, pursue a passion, or strengthen her emotional intelligence, every step she takes becomes a brick in the foundation of her personal evolution. She no longer waits for someone else to motivate her or guide her. She takes responsibility for her own progress. This self-driven growth builds a kind of inner strength that cannot be shaken by external challenges. Choosing herself also means acknowledging her worth in a deeper, more profound way. She starts recognizing the value of her time, her emotions, her talents, and her boundaries. Instead of saying yes out of guilt or pressure, she becomes comfortable saying no when something does not align with her peace or priorities. These boundaries protect her from distractions and relationships that drain her. As she becomes more selective about what she allows into her life, she begins to attract better energy, healthier environments, and people who genuinely appreciate her. Boundaries become not walls but filters, ensuring that what enters her life adds value rather than taking from it. Investing in herself also allows her to cultivate a mindset grounded in confidence and self-trust. She learns how to rely on her own judgment, acknowledge her capabilities, and believe in her potential. Challenges no longer intimidate her the way they once did. Instead, she faces them with a sense of assurance, knowing that she has overcome before and will overcome again. This shift in mindset influences the way she approaches opportunities, risks, and responsibilities. She stops shrinking herself to fit into places where she does not belong. She grows until she reaches places worthy of her strength and ambition. In this journey of choosing herself, she deepens her understanding of emotional well-being. She takes time to process her feelings, heal from past wounds, and develop healthier coping mechanisms. Her emotional maturity becomes evident in the way she handles conflict, manages stress, and communicates her needs. She is no longer controlled by impulse or insecurity. She responds thoughtfully and calmly. This emotional balance allows her to maintain stronger relationships, not because she depends on others, but because she shows up with a healthier sense of self. When a woman commits to her own growth and peace, she naturally begins to shine. Her confidence becomes quieter but stronger, her presence becomes calmer but more powerful, and her mindset becomes clearer but more determined. She becomes the kind of woman who is not defined by circumstances but strengthened by them. She does not chase validation because she already recognizes her own value. She does not settle for less because she knows she deserves more. Her dreams become non-negotiable, her standards rise, and her self-respect becomes the guiding force behind her choices. As this transformation unfolds, she begins to inspire others without even trying. Her dedication to herself demonstrates that self-love is not merely a concept, it is a lifestyle. She shows that success is not accidental, but built through consistent effort and intentional choices. By choosing herself, she becomes capable of contributing more to the world, not from emptiness but from abundance. Her growth empowers her to build healthier relationships, pursue her ambitions, and walk through life with deep confidence. Choosing herself becomes the turning point that shapes who she is today and who she is destined to become tomorrow. So today, let this message echo within your heart. You are whole. You are enough. You are allowed to shine without anyone beside you. A woman without a boyfriend is not missing something. She is discovering everything. And when the time is right, the world will witness the beautiful power of a woman who chose herself first. Thank you.